Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Cullen's Corner. I'm Dr. Clark, and to the other side of me is, you guessed it, none other than... You're muted, sir. Let's get it.
As much as I talk about you, and I'm on mute.
Right.
This is Cullen, guys.
All right, welcome to Cullen's Corner Hot Topics. Tonight we have a very special edition of the show, but a couple of things that we want to definitely do first is introduce you all to the Brownstone. So welcome to Brownstone Worldwide. I am Paulette. I am one of the founders of Brownstone Worldwide. We're the Brownstone Worldwide Studios on my side. Cullen's in his office. And we have Brownstone Worldwide, where we actually take urban brands and help them to get the global visibility that they need through brownstoneworldwide.com, the Brownstone Podcast Network, and also Brownstone Living Magazine. Now, let's talk about some things that are coming down the pipe for us. We just started the new season, and this is actually the very first show of the season for Cullen's Corner. So we're really excited about that. But we've had a myriad of new shows that have already started for the season. And I actually have one that is starting tomorrow, in addition to our very own DJ Tony Sanchez on Saturdays and Sundays, along with myself on Sunday with the Sunday brunch. So we've got a lot of things that are coming down the pipe. But before we get started and digging deep into what's happening, because we want to make sure that we get all of this fun stuff out of the way, let's tell you what's happening. So, Cullen, I want to get right into it. I want to share with the people what we have coming down the pipe. Y'all, the very first thing is we have a virtual telethon that's happening tomorrow. And yes, that is me. We're going to be hanging out 4 hours of recipes for block parties. What's for Brunch show. It's a new show that's coming out. The watch party for that is tomorrow. We're going to be doing some music. I'm going to bring out the mic, y'all. I'm going to be singing. Yes, we're going to be singing for the supper. And information on the block party live, which is actually happening on August 4th at the beautiful Mill at Dovedown, located in South Atlanta. We call it Griffin, Georgia. And that is for a fundraiser for Exhale Central Georgia. We're going to be sharing with you how you can donate. No donation is too small. Also, don't forget, you guys, we are headed on the Neighbors Retreat in 2024. More information about that is coming your way. We wanted to make sure that you are fully aware that some things have changed. We had a meeting today, Cullen, didn't we?
We did.
With our person that's been helping us. Shout out to Kisa for all that she's been doing to support us and getting everything set up. And y'all, they changed the ship on us. We're excited about that. They brought the ship all the way over for us from Europe, and it's called the Celebrity Beyond. We're going to be leaving Fort Lauderdale on July 21st, returning on July 27th. Guys, we're going to Cozumel. We're going to Georgetown, Grand Cayman, and also Bimini, Bahamas. That's going to give you guys an opportunity to be a part of some live remotes that we're going to be doing with our air personalities. So you're going to get a chance to meet myself and Cullen. You're going to meet Leanne and Nicole and Dr. Michelle from Numbers Don't Lie and Marshawn from Love Restored. All of our air personalities are going to be joining us, including some of our newbies. You don't want to miss that, because we're going to have some meet and greets. We're going to have some live entertainment and more on that as it becomes available. Now. Why are we here? I'm going to put that in your hands, and then we're going to jump off and start talking to these amazing individuals that have joined us this evening.
Yes, so the reason why we're here, I think everyone already know by now, the decision for the Supreme Court to strike down affirmative action has a domino effect, and we need to be here to talk about it, because bit by bit they're peeling back all the things that our ancestors have brought forth for us to help us, and they're taking away. So we're trying to see what we can do and what we can teach others to fight back, and what we can do. So that's what we're here tonight for, and it's only the beginning.
Absolutely. And so with that, we wanted to make sure that you guys are fully aware of who we have tonight with us. Up first, we want to definitely bring back to the table. She hung out with us this afternoon for lunch. and that is candidate Makya Little from the state of Virginia. And we're going to be bringing her back up. And so we're going to welcome her first to the fold. Do I need to bring? So wait a minute. Wait, there she is. There she is. Up. There she is. Hey, lady. Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you.
So glad to have you on the show again this evening. Virginia State House candidate for House District, let's see, 19.
Yes.
And we had an amazing conversation with you this afternoon and about your story and how you have started the fight. And I like to call it the good fight because that's exactly what it is. And we also have with us, and I'm going to be providing his information right now for you guys, and that is Dr. Alvin Tillery. Let me go ahead and just break out that bio, shall we? So let's go ahead and do that. Dr. Tillery this is an amazing bio. So first of all, I'm not going to be able to get through all of it. We're going to have to pick and choose, but let's talk about this. Dr. Alvin B. Tillery Jr., a tenured professor of political science and the director of CSDD. His research and teaching interests are in the fields of American politics and political theory. His book, Between Homeland and Motherland, Africa, U.S. Foreign Policy, and Black Leadership in America, Cornell University Press 2011, won the W.E.B. Du Bois Distinguished Book Award from the National Conference of Black Political Scientists. Wow. He served as co-chair of the American Political Science Association's Presidential Task Force on Racial and Class Inequalities in the Americas. He is a frequent commentator in the national media on diversity issues, racial politics, and presidential leadership. I am honored to bring to our virtual stage Dr. Tillery and everything that he's going to be talking to us tonight about. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Alvin Tillery. Let's bring him up to the stage. And of course, our very own DJ T-Man Sanchez is hanging out with us as well. So let's go ahead and bring everybody on. Welcome. Boy, that was long. We appreciate you guys for coming on with us. This is a serious topic that we have at hand. And I don't take it lightly. I don't think any one of us has, since we've heard of the overturning or what our Supreme Court has decided for us. And we're talking about affirmative action. And the first question, even before we went live, I wanted to make sure that we touched on this. And Dr. Tillery, if you do not mind, I would love if you provided us an opportunity to hear firsthand, what is affirmative action? I think a lot of people really need to understand and know.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Clark, for your warm welcome. Thanks to all of you and Makya for putting me in your orbit. It's great to be here with you. So the language of affirmative action comes from an executive order that President John F. Kennedy issued in 1961 about the Defense Department taking affirmative action to desegregate and to sort of seek diversity in its relationships with suppliers and through its employment practices. The language was strengthened in 1964 when President Lyndon Johnson, in the wake of his Civil Rights Act signing, went to Howard University and gave a famous commencement speech called "Freedom is Not Enough." Now, I'm a Morehouse man, but I'm smart enough to know that Howard is the Mecca. It always has been. And so, presidents often break news there. And so President Johnson in Executive Order 11246 extended the logic that President Kennedy, his predecessor, had put on the Defense Department to the whole of the federal government. And so from there, progressive institutions in the wake of the Civil Rights Act, which ended our racial caste system, which for some reason we still euphemistically call Jim Crow, which doesn't mean anything to our young people. It was a racial caste system. And so, the notion that the government would take the lead on this made other institutions like medical schools at University of California, Davis, like Harvard University in 1968, implemented a very aggressive affirmative action program to desegregate after a visit from Dr. King in 1967. And so the class of 1968 at Harvard was the first class to really have discernible presence of racial minorities in it, because of this notion that acting affirmatively is something that we have to do. And so the language became sort of synonymous with the work of desegregation, the work of promoting diversity, bringing us into statistical parity with our population. And it was upheld in college admissions in 1978 in the famous case of Bakke v. UC Regents, where the court said that you can't have a hard and rigid quota system for racial groups, but you can consider race as one factor in a broad constellation of factors for admissions decisions. So that is affirmative action as it has been practiced and upheld by 3 conservative courts. I just want to point that out. The Rehnquist court was conservative. The Roberts court was conservative when they upheld it under the Fisher ruling in 2013, and only now struck down by ideologues who placed the more moderate justices, O'Connor and Kennedy, and also the liberal Justice RBG. And so, colleges can no longer engage in using race as an explicit factor, has a plus factor for Black, Latino, Indigenous, and Asian students. I want to point out that most people think that Asian students don't get affirmative action in college admissions. That's false. There's an intersectionality problem. Low-income Asian students absolutely get affirmative action. And there's a famous paper from Georgetown University McCourt School that came out in support of the Harvard's defense of its programs, showing that. And so that's what affirmative action has meant in terms of college admissions. It is still operative, or should still be operative, in the workforce, right? Pipeline work and other work to make sure that you have a diverse talent pool. Those are governed under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and they should still be legal, although the right-wingers are trying to destroy those as well. Sorry, was that in line with what you're looking for? I don't know if that was.
It absolutely was. Guys, you all good with that? Because I think you hit it right on the nose. And we need to hear that for so many of us that are, we understand it. I am a beneficiary of it. I've benefited from it. I know several of us have. But I also wanted to make it clear that the minute that this was hit, as soon as we heard that affirmative action was for colleges was going away, I started having coworkers lose their jobs.
Right.
I just heard you say, really, that it shouldn't have impacted the workforce, but it already has.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Paulette, I think that we in America don't talk about affirmative action in any way that resembles how it was practiced in college admissions in the workforce. And that's largely because, white people, as part of their broader grievance, politics, those who have a kind of sort of cluster of attitudes that we call in public opinion research, a kind of white grievance perspective, they all have a story of, I lost a spot because of affirmative, and then on the other side of the coin, I've heard since the Students for Fair Admissions won against Harvard, I've heard all of these Black people talking about how they benefited from affirmative action. And, I don't think that's the case, actually. There are 3,500 colleges in America. Affirmative action mattered at only about 150 of the most competitive colleges and universities in the nation. 95% of Black students today do not go to colleges that practice affirmative action. So, so that's the first thing you have to wrap your mind around. So if you did not go to a college that rejects 75% of their applicants, you did not benefit from affirmative action admissions, right? And so that's why these cases are always targeting like the Harvard and the true, most Black and brown students are going to, HBCUs, community colleges, state institutions that accept about 75% of their applicants.
I
And
see.
so, but even at those schools, people talk about this thing as if it has affected them. And so there's a very narrow, sort of population of people that have been affected, right? So the second thing that I want to say is even the Black and brown students that are at Harvard this year, only 4 out of 10 of those would have received affirmative action.
Wow.
So what does that mean? It means what affirmative action does is it says, okay, there's a test score gap, right? And so, when we have Black students or Latino students or Indigenous or some Asian students that don't have the average score, and at a place like Harvard, that's going to be like 1550, right? So the average Black student is going to have like a 1450, which is still astronomically high. The average American is getting like 1,000 on the SAT across all racial groups. So these are high performing students. And so that gap of 100 points is like 15 more questions wrong on a 500 question test.
Got it.
It's not even, anything we should be debating, but we're debating it because of the right way. And so about 4 out of the 10 Black students at these elite institutions, they won't be admitted next year.
I
right?
see.
But all of the Black students are not going to go away, right? And those 4 out of 10 are going to just go to slightly less competitive schools. So maybe you won't go to Harvard, but you'll go to WashU, or you'll go to, and so that's what's going to happen, right?
Okay.
But we talk about is, it helped. No, it probably didn't help. You probably are not a beneficiary unless you went to one of these 200 elite schools.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious. And Makya, I know that one of the things, and then Cullen, I'm going to let you lead off here, but I do have a question. Is that I'm just going to open up the floor and just ask this question. How do we as a community feel, number one, about this ruling? And hearing what Dr. Tillery just said, what are we fighting? Let's go think.
So first of all, I do want to address one of the things that Dr. Tillery said about test scores. And one of the things that we have historically ignored is the discriminatory like founding of standardized testing. And as a graduate of one of the number one high school in the nation that previously had a standardized test as part of its admissions process, one of the things that they would always say is, Black and brown students, they lacked merit. We lacked merit as a reason to justify our low admittance rates. But I was president of the TJ Alumni Action Group that led the reform efforts to remove that test and a $100 application fee. Whole nother story for another day. And the research and data that we showed was that it wasn't a tester of merit. It was more a tester of access to resources. Because in order to prepare for that standardized test, you basically had to prepare to learn the test in order to do well on it. And so the talking points that spun around my community, we're lowering standards, and I said, we have this conversation with a mayor of one of the local cities, and I said, "You're an attorney, correct?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Would you agree that the LSAT is its own course of study? Like, to prepare for the LSAT, you basically have to take a prep class." And she said, "Yeah, absolutely." I said, "Right, because nowhere in our normal curriculum are we learning logic and reasoning games and all of these things. So if you could not afford to take that course, do you think you would have done as well as you did on the LSAT?" And then you kind of saw the gears turning in her head where I said, we're not testing for merit. We're testing for access to resources. And when we looked at the data for students admitted to my school, which was at the time 70% Asian, in an area that was only 20% Asian. Yet 70% Asian students admitted to my high school. When you looked at the socioeconomic numbers, that number was 0.62% low income in an area where about 31% of the student population were low income. Once we removed the standardized test, the $100 application fee, and ensured that there was regional geographic diversity. So each middle school kind of had a quota for at least how many students based on their population they had seats for at the high school. That 0.62% went up to 25.09. That was the biggest demographic change, yet they still wanted to call the admissions changes anti-Asian. And so my argument was, unless you can make the argument that none of those 25.09 were of Asian descent, you can't make that argument.
And that's just crazy because, even when during the pandemic, when a lot of the schools did away with, the testing and spending paying to get into the schools, and they saw their enrollment skyrocket. Yep. And a lot of schools that I was affiliated with, they even started to say, you know what, we're going to keep it like this because we've gotten so many great candidates that we probably wouldn't have gotten if we would have kept these scores or kept the fee because people couldn't afford it, because people were applying for 3, 4, 5 different schools who can afford all that. And I had even some schools that were only offering programs in the fall. They were opening up spring and even summer cohorts because it opened up a lot more people to come in and look at their school and say, hey, I could be a part of this school. And so I totally agree with what you're saying. I think it's just a crazy thing. But I do have a question for one of you, Makya, or Dr. Tillery. How might the decision impact efforts to address historical and ongoing racial disparities in educational attainment? Because I think that's huge.
Dr. Tillery?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will have an impact. I mean, but what I always say, much to the chagrin of some of my friends in the activist community, full disclosure, like I did go to Harvard. I first went to an historically Black college. I finished third in my class of 800 people. I think I got 1B in college in physics. I think I tested in like the 90th percentile on the test. I may very well have been an affirmative action admit. There were, I think there were 5 Black men pursuing PhDs at Harvard when I arrived in 1993 in the social sciences and humanities, right? It was a scandal for the old white professors that my cohort had 2 of those 5, right?
Wow.
And they were telling me every day that I should leave and give my seat to a more qualified white applicant.
Wow.
And then I got into this class and I sounded like, there's at least 3 white boys here that cannot do statistics as well as I can do. So, so I'm not going anywhere, right? So, it's going to matter more at the top end of the system, like medical school. We're going to see fewer Black doctors because of this. We will see fewer Black scientists because of it. It won't be like a 0 level event, but, losing 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10 Black doctors in a crisis in Black healthcare it's going to hurt. The reason that we started affirmative action in college admissions in the first place was UC Davis said, in 30 years, California will be a majority minority state and white doctors do not treat Black and Latino and Asian patients. And so that is where we're going. So that'll be a huge impact. But what I say to some of the elites, who've gone to Harvard and have gone to at least in their own Wall Street, is that I've never thought that Harvard was where we should be spending our energy to promote racial equity, right? The most important fight for racial equity is what Makya did in her neighborhood in Virginia, and like the high school level, the K through 12, sending more resources to where those 95% of Black and Latino, and frankly, most Asian students are going to school. That's the biggest fight for racial equity, right? Because I encounter people in the world, they have no dream of going to Harvard. They want to go to the community college that is in their neighborhood so they can take care of their mama or keep a job to work, with their families, right? And so sending resources to those people is the biggest thing that we have to do to make sure that our communities are healthy and that we have a stable America. And then the other big things are housing inequality, mass incarceration. I mean, honestly, like affirmative action at elite colleges is that'd be like number 6 on my list of things to do to promote racial equity.
And I totally love the fact that you said that, and a lot of people don't realize the effect it will have on the Black doctors, and we're already having a problem in that field, especially the rate of Black women that are dying from childbirth, and it's just one of those things. And I think, Makya, I always wanted to ask how you think this will affect attendance at HBCUs. You think HBCUs, this is their time to pick up the torch and try to run with what they need to run with to keep up that balance?
I think it's a given. I mean, as Dr. Tillery said, working at the lower levels, first of all, public education, we all know, is under attack. And this is all a coordinated effort, right? So they've started attacking public schools, making even teaching intolerable, attacking the curriculum, attacking resources that are provided for public schools in favor of charter schools, making things hostile, and also directing specialty programs to schools with least or lesser diverse attendance, right? So like in my community, Prince William County, one of the most diverse counties in the nation, it's 10th most diverse in the nation, the most diverse in Virginia. You have creative arts programs, STEM programs, all at predominantly white high schools. But when you come to the Latino or Black dominated high schools, you see automotive, you see cosmetology. And so one of the things that I actually am partnering with one of the high schools in my county to do is to establish a public policy program named after Elijah Cummings. And again, the lessons that I'm learning now at 40, they need to learn at 14, and to teach our children how to self-advocate, learn the local systems of government, and empower them now, so it's not a woe is me, I have to accept the way things are. No, give me the tools so I know how to fix this myself. Right. And also at another high school, I want to partner there to create a analytics program that will teach children the stock market, how to create their own wealth, with lessons that we never learned in school, but clearly somebody taught these other kids. Right. And so just reimagining public education and how we can actually prepare our students to thrive in society. Teach me how to pay my taxes. If you want. Right. I'm with you, Dr. Tillery. That was like my lowest grade.
So, and thank you both for your responses. So this is helping me to kind of formulate the next question, and it's something that we kind of touched on earlier. And what has been in my group of folks that I talk to on a daily basis outside of the Brownstone family, is I'm hearing what you're saying, the both of you, and I'm saying to myself, where is it that we as the elders right now, because let's just keep it real, that's who we are, right? There, it is what it is, right? And I hold on to that wholeheartedly, and I am honored to take that position. But knowing that, and knowing what we are up against, and understanding that it really starts at a lower level outside of, deciding if I want to go to, one of the predominantly, white institutions that is the, the top of the line, yes. And you earned that title, Tony, most definitely. So here's the question that I have. How do we, at this juncture where we currently are right now, what do we do? I asked this earlier on the day shift when we had Makya on, and we chatted briefly about this experience that we were going to have this evening. I need to know, what do we do at this point? We talking, okay? Let me break it down. Let me take the doctor hat off, okay? We doing all this talking. What we finna do? There's my question.
I'll take the first swing at that. We absolutely have to educate our community.
Yeah.
There is so much that I have had to learn in this process about public service, the different roles, positions, how one even qualifies for the ballot, how one hosts a fundraiser. I asked my parents to throw me a fundraiser. They're like, I don't know how to do that. You're basically just throwing a party. That's it. It's a party. It's a cookout. And you're inviting people over. And I talk to them, but it's like, we don't know what we don't know. Right. And until we intentionally learn, seek the wisdom, seek the rules of the system, we'll never be able to change the system.
Absolutely.
And what we also need to do is, what I will say gingerly, is get out of the way. I love my parents. I do. But when I tell you they preached into me, you get a good government job with a pension, and that's what you do. Entrepreneurship scares them. Politics scares them. Yep. And even though I've had to explain to them that this is a faith journey for me, this isn't something I sought. And so I'm preaching, they love language, literally. Yeah. And they're still operating, in a place of fear. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you didn't raise me to be that way. Yeah. You didn't raise me to be that way. And so I feel like we have to recognize that our generational truth and what we deemed as success is going to look different from our children. And all we can do is empower them with the tools they need to make the change themselves.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Dr. Tillery, what about you?
So I'm sorry, could you remind me, so the target of your question is, what are we to do about fixing, like pushing back, or?
Well, it is about pushing back, but I think we're looking at this in so many different factors. So let me tell you what my brain sees, because she always dances in different places. Okay. So the one thing that I'm looking at is what has happened with affirmative action. But even before then, we saw it coming. We heard them talking about it.
Yes.
So we saw the strategic positioning of new judges on the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And we did nothing. Yes, we did. We did this. We did this. And we got busy doing other things, right? We watched some of our most poignant Black folks in our community cross over and transition, but yet we continue to do this. Yes. And so while we were busy doing this and living our lives and doing the soft life, which is some new thing, some new phenomena I don't know anything about, right? So we're doing all of the things that, by all accounts, our mothers and our fathers and our grandfathers and grandmothers fought for. We're enjoying the fruits of that. They are slowly, as Cullen says, chipping it away so that it is less painless as it begins to be apparent that everything that was fought for is being peeled away from us. Now, the question is, they've been playing chess all along. We run around here playing spades. We ain't playing checkers, honey. We at the barbecue cookout with Big Papa Daddy with the sandals on and the see-through black socks, having a party, enjoying the fruits of what we see to be what we've been earning all of these years. But yet we're losing so much along the way. The true question is if I were my grandmother, is what is we gonna do? What we gonna do, folks? What happens now?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I understand your frustration, but I think, first of all, we already are doing a lot,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so Black people overperform politically as voters. They way overperform their class status, right? They are the most regular, the most effective at mobilizing. And when you control for class, they are better than any other group in the country. So that's the first thing that we have to recognize is that, when we say, what are we going to do? Like the Black organizing tradition has done, tremendously well in the last 3 election cycles, flipping, Senate seats in Georgia,
Absolutely.
making the presidency work for Democrats, right? And so, that's happening. We can't ignore that, right?
Absolutely.
What I will say is that the reason that we are in a cycle where it seems like we're losing to the conservatives that are explicitly chipping away at our rights is because we are, right? And we are because they are playing a different level of politics. It's not chess versus checkers so much. It's just that like their chessboards are marble and their pieces are gilded with gold because they have dark money from crazy right-wing billionaires that will literally give them checks to do whatever they want to do. And we don't have that, right?
Yeah.
And the way that politics is played out now is the kind of, 2014, we had the uprising of Black Lives Matter as a result of the Trayvon Martin and Philando Castile and all, and Ferguson and all these things, right? And then 2020, it was supercharged because of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd. That was a multiracial movement. So that's the Black organizing tradition at the core of all of that.
Yeah.
But then when we fall back from protests, we don't have billionaires cutting. I mean, there are literally guys that I went to Harvard with that have $500 million nonprofits.
My goodness.
That are working to just undermine Black voting rights. And so we have LaTosha Brown and Black Voters Matter and all that. But like that is not enough to combat the resource inequalities. So the same inequalities that Makya is talking about with the tests are affecting us in this new form of politics. We also don't have very sophisticated engagement with modern media. We don't have social media farms the way the Russians do and the right winger. We have Black Twitter and all of this activism, but like they have bots and AI and all these things that are paid for by the right wing media. And then they pick off a ridiculous rapper like Kanye West or one of these other guys to, say that, he's got dragon's blood in the White House with Donald Trump. And so these are like all paid engagement. Like this is not like, hey, like, did Kanye really wake up and think it was good to fly around the country with Nick? Like, no, like the billionaires set that up for him. Right. And it's like, and it's not just him. I mean, you might say, oh, well, he's got some health issues. Fair enough. There are other rappers and athletes like that's all product placement. Right. And so our leaders, as good as they are, the traditional groups, the NAACP, the LDF, National Action Network, which is probably the most sophisticated of all of them, there's only like 3 Black billionaires and they give a lot, right? But it's just not enough. And so that's got to change. And then I do think you're right, Dr. Paulette. I mean, one problem is that the fusion between our kind of cultural aesthetic and our power politics is a problem, right? So the Black Lives Matter women, I'm probably one of the like 2 or 3 leading experts in the country on the Black Lives Matter movement. I wrote a couple of famous quantitative studies of it, right? And so like really great, tremendous energy, moved all those young people out. They collected $90 million.
They did.
Wow.
And then what did they do with it? They said, I'm not a leader. I'm going to do a Netflix deal. I'm going to make art. I mean, like okay, but like Fannie Lou Hamer didn't say like, oh, I'm punching out to ABC to make like, no, like she's in the struggle.
Absolutely.
She's in Freedom Summer
Yeah.
all day, every day with Harry Belafonte.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, you've got to set that stuff, which may be attractive, the Vogue, that's great.
Yeah.
But you've got to set that aside and be, you know, my neighborhood, we say, you got to be in the cut.
That's right.
Really trying to like work it out. And that's what we don't really have, in my view. But it doesn't mean that there's not a lot of energy and activism. I mean, Makya's emblematic of that. Y'all are emblematic of that. But we need billionaires stroking checks.
That part. Can I speak?
We don't have that.
Definitely.
As a candidate, billionaires stroking checks. There is a serious campaign finance issue, and it's extremely huge in Virginia because we have no fundraising caps, but it's an issue everywhere. So much of our politics is run by money and donors. And if our people aren't conditioned to support candidates, guess who is? Special interest groups.
Yes.
Right.
And so you can have someone with a good heart. Guess what? They don't make the ballot because the community isn't donating to them. And so you have to wrestle with this. And Kiki Palmer actually did a video that I shared on social media either today or yesterday, where she kind of has this revelation, like, wait a minute, if you actually want to do this for the people, but it conflicts with what this group wants, like, good luck getting someone to fund your campaign. Mm-hmm. And so it's this hard path to navigate when your village, when your community isn't financially backing you, yet they expect you to represent their interests once you make it. Yeah. But you can't make it because even if I have a fundraiser, every $2 that I raise, because the way our people work, I got to spend one. Mm-hmm. I got to give you what you doing for me? Okay, so now I got to sell dinners. I got to sell a ticket. I even had someone ask for a discount on a fundraiser, and I'm like, oh my God, they don't get it. Like, this isn't me giving you something and you giving me something back. This is you donating to my campaign that just so happens to come with this experience, you know? Yeah. And even with that, there was an ask for a discount. Mm. And so we have to do a better job of educating our community on campaign finance, mm-hmm. on ballot access, mm-hmm. on the primaries, where really the decision is made, especially in these highly gerrymandered districts. And I think it's time actually for us to start considering, are these parties working for us, either of them?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that's all right. Okay, I agree with that. But I'll also say, like, you know, where you started the conversation, where we start with, like, the reason that Black people don't give as much is they don't have as much, right? So, like, let's go back to Harvard. Okay. So the SAT test, the college board that administers it, they tell us that for every $5,000 your family makes over $100,000, that's good for like 5 points on the SAT because of all the resource gaps that Makya has told us about. That's all that test prep, right? Mm-hmm. The average income of Asian students at Harvard is $250,000 a year. The average income of white students at Harvard is $230,000 a year. The average income of Latinos is $75,000. The average income of Blacks is $55,000, right? And so we see very clearly these gaps. Same is true for campaign donations. Black people vote more, knock on doors more, put out flyers more, go to rallies more. They don't have the disposable income, right, to donate more. They just don't. And so that's why it is up to the Robert Smiths and the Oprahs, and especially Oprah. I mean, she gifted us, Dr. Oz. I mean, she needs to be stroking some checks. Yeah. To make up for that one. Yeah. But like that, I mean, that's a structural problem, right? Mm-hmm. What Obama figured out is that you could do these small dollar donations. Yeah. If you're like tall and super handsome and have doctorate, People just want to give Barack Obama money, right? But like that's not every candidate, right?
Right.
So that's a real structural inequality, you know.
Wow. I think that's so important to know that we have to figure out a way to get more money involved, right? And being able to get people more involved, not just in the primary elections, but even the small local elections, and get them more educated on that. I do want to ask. I want to shift the conversation just a little bit and talk about, how can we reclaim our curriculum? When we have, people that are taking over boards, the school boards that are slowly taking away our history and how we talk about our history. What can we do to reclaim our curriculum, and that can promote more inclusive and equity in our society?
So obviously it starts at home. But as I tried to explain in my oration that went viral, unless and until we are all learning from the same set of facts, we're going to continue to be at odds with one another on truth. And I was reading Justice Ketanji's dissent earlier this week, and one of the things that I wrote was, until we teach the babies the truth, everything we attempt to fix it on the back end is going to be a Band-Aid that can be ripped off at any official's whim. And it has to start with our history. So everyone can't run for office. I get that. Everyone can't, quit their job and run for school board, or even take that on as a part-time capacity. But everybody can do something. And I think until we ask that question of ourselves, maybe I can't donate to this campaign, but I can knock doors with you. Or maybe I can't knock doors, but I can do some research in my downtime and put together a policy paper. Maybe I can't plan a fundraiser, but I can invite you to my church and you can talk to the people. We all have gifts and we all have our roles to play, but until we come together, get on the same accord, we're going to keep just spinning in place.
Let me, Dr. Tillery, did you want to follow up with that? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And Tony, you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've got to start suing people. White people get things that they want by just suing people. And, one problem with the civil rights establishment is that they've been, I think, Dr. Clark, you said it, a little reactive at times.
Yeah.
But none of these laws banning diversity, equity, and inclusion should be able to pass muster with Title VII civil rights actions.
Right.
None of these bans on teaching Black history should be able to pass muster with First Amendment claim. We need to start class action suits in friendly federal courts and suing people.
Yeah.
I love that.
But Dr. Tillery, guess what it takes to sue people?
Money.
Money to sue.
Which is why we need to teach these babies how to work the stock market.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. And listen, so I've heard this, and we talked about this as well. I had a wonderful opportunity to be in a room with Kathy Hughes, the one and only. And I was enamored by something that she said. And this is where a platform like a Brownstone Worldwide and others like Roland Martin and his media platform as well. We are the grassroots constituents, right? We're on the ground and we're talking to the communities directly, face to face. We're in these rooms that by all accounts, many of you all, in what you're doing on a regular basis, aren't getting into because it's so deep. And you're dealing with these issues that our community is dealing with. To kind of piggyback on your question, Cullen, I think a lot of it comes down to creating a funnel of sorts where we are able to present the information to this two-channel group of folks. One is through presenting the information through our air personalities like DJ Tony Sanchez, who's on the call with us tonight, or like Dr. Michelle Josie, who has a show called Numbers Don't Lie, right? Providing them with the information. And we begin to create, by all accounts, a circle of infused information that makes it to these areas where we reach every single day. And not just our media platform, but others that look like us as well. And I think that it is so important that we start building these relationships like we're building with Makya and others like you, Dr. Tillery. And I understand, don't get me wrong, I am appreciative that we can be in rooms where you guys can be in rooms that we cannot touch, but there has to be that connection where we understand that the work is being done over here and that what we're doing over here, we can connect and it builds the spark. And where I think there is this missing piece is understanding that it is being done. We hear about it on the backside, but how do we, that's over here on the grassroots side, that's doing the work? We don't have people like a Beyonce or a Jay-Z on the cover of our magazine, but we do have the people that are in the neighborhood who connect with the thousands in and on the block. And that connection needs to start somewhere where we're able to say, this is what we've learned and this is what we've got. Let's put together a group of us on this side and a group of us over here, and let's connect and let's make a Reese's peanut butter cup and everybody eat from that, right? Does that make sense? Am I insane? I got to be crazy.
It does. And I think a lost art, and maybe it never was an art, in politics is that direct voter connection.
Yeah.
The regular town halls where things are being broken down, as they say, at the 6th grade level.
Yeah.
That transparency, that accountability.
Absolutely.
On a regular basis. And perhaps it's my, communications background to where I've learned how to use social media as a tool to be as transparent as possible. And the community, the international community has responded to that. I've gotten DMs from people from Tokyo and the UK and Australia, like, thank you for your work, multiple African countries. But that's because of the transparency, not necessarily, well, yes, I'm sure part of it is the content, but people want to know that what we are doing is real and our why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm always kind of ecumenical in these things. Like I think it's not a either or. It's like it's a yes and we all need to be doing everything at the same time. And so the reason I wanted to be on your show and delayed dinner and want to hang out is because I think this media effort is really important, right? I mean, to me it's like a big part of where we went wrong is allowing the collapse of the Black media, which basically saved all of us during the civil rights movement. And the death of Ebony and Jet magazine a decade ago was a disaster, but a bigger problem for me was the shift of Ebony and Jet to all culture reporting and no hard news left us in an asymmetric warfare. Precisely the time that happened, you had the rise of Fox News and Rush Limbaugh and disinformation. And so now we've got 2 generations of Black people who've been raised with no hard news produced by their community, right? And so, BET really abrogated its responsibility to produce hard news when it was Black owned, and now it's not Black owned. So it is up to you all, and maybe Byron Allen if he can make his Rio network go. But like we absolutely need what you're doing, and I think it's really invaluable. And thank you for your work. Yeah,
thank you. And it's funny you said that because we've had several people that's actually commented on, hey, you have real news on your website, because they're not used to seeing stuff like that, and they want to. Well, what happened? Where's all the news on Jay-Z or what's going on with Beyonce? Hey, I said, we can talk about that too, but we want to talk about some real stuff because what's going on right now is going to affect us in the long run, and we want to make sure we educate our people again.
Yeah, I think Roland's podcast show is great. Like I've done that a couple times. It's no surprise why they took him off of CNN. He was too proudly Black and unbowed, right? And so, we need you all, and I hope that you expand your platform, and I'll amplify it as I can if I can ever figure out social media. But I do have an assistant who's going to do all these things, right? At some point this summer. Yeah. So, but yeah,
absolutely. This has been amazing, and we're out of time. What I am going to say first of all is we want to definitely thank Makya Little for coming on and hanging out with us and communicating with us and connecting all of us together so that we can start this necessary conversation in our community. And I mean that from a global perspective because it is impacting us internationally. And I definitely want to thank Dr. Alvin Tillery for coming on and hanging out with us and taking the time out of your busy schedule and dinner and cigars and all that other stuff to come and speak with us, because we understand that you've got a life and life be life, right?
I wasn't smoking cigars though. I just want my mama and my wife to know I was sitting with cigar smokers.
Okay, this is a big difference.
Designated driver.
Yeah, I have asthma. You're gonna get me called on my cell phone and yelled at. But
I apologize for that. So and DJ Tony Sanchez, we want to thank you, of course, for coming in and popping up with us and being a part of the continuous movement of Brownstone Worldwide as we continue to grow. Our mantra here is changing the narrative of how we tell our stories our way, because if things are the same as they are today in 60 years, it's our fault. So we stand on the shoulders of some amazing people that came before us, and we want to continue to build up this community the way that we have. And so I am going to ask that we stay connected and that we come again in another format of finding ways to help to build what Makya is doing and to continue to help what you're doing, Dr. Tillery, in any way that we can, and to use our platform for education, right? That was my hint. We have an entire platform to educate our children, and not just about Black folks, but the truth. Let's talk about that overall. And so that is what we want to make sure that we do. The Daughters of the Confederacy did it well, did they not? They gave us so much.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Still living with. Yes? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we? So I want to thank you guys once again for coming out. Dr. Tillery, where can we find you?
Northwestern University.
Y'all heard he said Northwestern University.
He's on. Let me help him out. He's on Twitter. He's on Instagram.
And just Google Alvin Tillery, Northwestern University. Like
email him.
that stuff is not going to. I'm not gonna see it. Right. I'm telling you.
I'm gonna tag him. No, I'm gonna tag him.
Okay, yeah. Because I don't like the guy that owns Twitter now, so I'm trying to get off of that.
Indeed.
Yeah. My assistant's putting me on Threads. Maybe I'll do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You should be. I think we're all over there. Yep. And then of course we have, let me see if I can find you, because you hung out with us earlier today. I have so much stuff back here, y'all. Listen, it's really bad. So
while she's looking, I just want to mention that I want our shoulders to be the shoulders for Gen Z to climb on, because I think the Gen Z is they're amazing. I think I've seen so many, quality young advocates that are speaking up more so than they did in my day, and so I feel like we are in good hands, but we got to keep them, fed, and we got to keep them going.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And they're hungry.
They're very hungry.
And so I want to add to this before we run over to DJ Tony, because I know what you're going to end with. But listen, let me just say this. MakyaLittle.com is where we can find Makya. You can reach out to her there and connect with her there. We're really excited about that. But let me just also say this as well. They're hungry. And the thing is, and I say this often, I think about my father, who is the griot of my family. He's the last living sibling in his family. And he continues to share the story. And I said this earlier of how, what is the name of the slave that got off that ship? Who was the last one? We know. Why are we not telling our children that? Why are we not sharing that if they're hungry and we got the food to feed them, let's not starve them.
There you go.
Okay. DJ Tony Sanchez in the building. What you got for us?
Man, this has been so excellent, man. I mean, wow. You in Evanston?
Evanston.
Okay, because I'm in Chicago, so don't be surprised you see my face up there looking for you. Because
let's meet up. Just email me.
I'm a knowledge seeker. You know what I'm saying? Even at 64, man, I am continuously trying to learn. I'm always
let's hang out.
learning.
You gotta come to our events. I'm gonna drop my number in the chat. So.
Okay, and the Queen, ooh, Little, man, where you been all my life? Man, I could have used some of this info like 2-3 years ago, boy. Man, I'd have been on fire then, boy. But listen, I am so grateful and honored to be a part of this Brownstone Worldwide. Paulette, when you first asked me, I was like, I'm riding till the wheels fall off and you can't put me out. You can't put me out. Cullen, boy, you the best thing as a brother to me. Man, I love you for all of your, enthusiasm, all of your wisdom that you're willing to share, man, your perseverance, man. So continue doing what you're doing. Y'all can catch me every Saturday and Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. right here, KCCR Radio, the Brownstone Worldwide, the Eye of the Storm, where you get some of Chicago's best music, from old school groove to, I'm telling you, I knock the blues out your socks, boy.
I love it.
But listen to the panel, man. Let's continue to keep pressing the envelope. Let's keep pushing it. Let's keep pushing it, because I've been told I couldn't for long enough. Now I'm willing to do what I can, and I'm going to stand on that. You know what I'm saying? Because we got to realize today and right now, we all we got. So we got to come together.
Come on, Tony. That's it. I love it. And we're going to end with that. Once again, I'm going to hand it over to Cullen, but thanks again, you guys, for hanging out with us today on Cullen's Corner, Black America Town Hall. Cullen, back to you.
I just want to thank you guys again for an amazing town hall. This is just the beginning. I want to be able to, continue this fight, this good fight, and get in good trouble. And eventually we're going to see Makya as president one day. I'm speaking that into existence today, because we need somebody like her, So I'm just excited about what the plans are in the future will be. So just thank you very much for coming on.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for this amazing Cullen's Corner Black America Town Hall. We'll see you on another edition of Cullen's Corner Hot Topics. We'll see you around.